Hey, you!
Looks like he's coming our way. Hopefully we can scare him away. All right, look at that, I'm still here. What is it now? I guarantee it's not Sunday for the third time in a row. Monday, November 3rd. I almost feel like I'm late, although I know I'm not really, but it kind of bugs me to be here November 3rd. I'm usually gone by now, but excuse me anyway. I had a bunch of chores and things I had to do to make sure Sarah was okay here while I was gone. Her back's still killing her with that sciatic nerve pain. She's gone to the chiropractor this morning. Got the chicken coop shoveled out, cleaned out. All the chicken boxes replaced with shavings and hay for their eggs. Got that done. Took the dog for a big long rip. Fed the horses. Got the rest of my stuff packed up. I'm ready to go. But I gotta wait for her to come back, so I might as well hang out here for a little bit, right? And then I guess tonight I'll be sleeping in the woods. Tomorrow morning I'll be checking out my blacktail spots, my blacktail deer spots. See if the one particular big buck I'm after is there yet. I don't think he will be, though, but he's coming, unless the wolves got him. And then off to the north I go, camping in the snow. Camping in the snow. I know. I'm not normal in the head. Whatever. Now, let me get this organized here so I can not bonk into it with the late, great Bobby Short's book, who we're going to hear from again right where I left off. Man, she took in a lot of reports, didn't she? Wow. Anyway, let's get into hearing from Bobby, shall we? This next entry in her book is titled Coughing and Flatulence. When I read this next report, I couldn't believe what I was reading. Get a load of this. Lester Walking Horse reported an unusual happening on the Comanche grasslands near the panhandle of Oklahoma, near the borders of Colorado, Kansas, New Mexico, and Texas. Paraphrasing his lengthy report, Walking Horse said he was hunting prairie chickens, inching along, crawling on his belly. He was focused on sneaking up on a clutch of hens. Then the clucking sound stopped abruptly when someone coughed. But Walking Horse thought he was alone. He was so far out onto the grassland that it surprised him to hear a man coughing. He stayed low to the ground and very still in the grass, his shotgun by his side. He listened intently through a buzzing storm of grasshoppers. Sweat trickled from his hairline. The coughing continued sporadically, and suddenly a shadow was cast over his head. Thinking he was alone, the shadow was disconcerting. Minutes went by, and then a few feet away walked a large man-like figure with hair tangled about his naked legs and feet. Walking Horse was sure the Bigfoot spotted him. He didn't move, but lay frozen on the ground in the tall grass. The Bigfoot walked on by, coughing loudly and passing gas, perhaps oblivious to the presence of anyone around him, including the prairie hens. The report was filed by Edna, Lester's wife, in 2001, but occurred 10 years earlier in 1991. She also indicated that her husband said the odor that permeated the air was unpleasant and burned her husband's nose. Lester found several strands of hair but refused to part with them. The hairs, they said, were sacred and now braided into the beadwork he wears around his neck. Walking Horse felt the Bigfoot had spared his life. I wonder why he felt that. Because I don't think we've had one person come forward and say they eyewitnessed these large hairy people ripping a human being apart. I don't believe we've had that happen yet. I think there was an account where somebody said his uncle was shredded and parts of him were hung in a tree. Never talked to that person, wasn't emailed into me, but I heard that report. Or was it sent to us? I don't know. I mean, shit, I've read thousands of these experiences, right? Almost everybody says that thing could have killed me like nothing, but he didn't. Same with me though, right? When I was a kid walking down that road, and that dude was whatever you want to call it, was on that rock right there. Obviously, I didn't have a clue. I did not feel I might have felt the presence actually, but I didn't know somebody's right there and it was pitch black beside me. If I hadn't looked up, whatever that was, if their intent was to kill me, I was a goner, right? I was a goner, I would imagine. But they don't, on average. I'm living proof. Sasquatch waving arms. In a Pacific Northwest magazine article dated March 1983, there was this blurb. Quote, several people traveling in the dome car of a train bound from Vancouver, British Columbia to Calgary, Alberta, saw a 10-foot ape-like creature standing 300 feet from the tracks. Later, one of the witnesses said it was waving its arms as if trying to fly. In another publication, the City Monthly in northern Maine published a blurb that mentioned in part, quote, the beast was way up on a boulder, waving its arms in the air like a fledgling eagle learning to fly, end quote. That's odd. Marvin S. wrote a brief note from Pennsylvania Dutch country in 1995 which described a hairy man's unexplainable behavior. It was yet another case where the Sasquatch was observed waving its arms erratically. For this cause, I'm only interested in the behavior of the Sasquatch. Quote, we observed the Bigfoot for 1 or 2 minutes. His arms were straight out and he was rotating them in a circular motion. Then he stopped and spreading his legs wide apart, did the circular arm waving again. We didn't understand what the lesson was, but it was a sight to see. We decided to drive on. It was not a guy in a suit. There you go. Bigfoot mimicry and strange sounds. It is generally accepted in the research community that the forest people are great mimickers of animals, birds, and other sounds. There are accounts of diurnal blue jays fracturing the silence of the dark night with their clicking sounds. Reality is, though, that blue jays are quiet at night. There has to be another explanation for the clicking sounds in the forest at night. I recorded an account from a family in Copland, Maine, who told me they had heard a boisterous flock of geese flying south, totally out of place, that far north on a cold and snowy January afternoon in 1996. The geese, they say, left 13-inch and 8-inch flat barefooted tracks behind, each with 5 human-like toes. The witness was sure it wasn't a flock of geese, but a pair of resident Sasquatch children having fun mimicking the sounds of geese overhead, albeit out of season. The same witness said his St. Bernard limped home with a broken leg a month earlier, and that things around the house mysteriously disappeared. Strange noises were heard, and something banging on the house now and again, but the culprits never showed themselves. If we rely on the reports, and I often do, they tell us the Sasquatch in some cases are quite able to mimic eagles back and forth, the call of the osprey and other familiar birds in the woods, as well as migrating flocks. The Ritchie County, West Virginia, quote, growing up with Bigfoot, end quote, listed in the language chapter, also mentions how good the Bigfoot was at calling in turkeys with a perfect gobble. The Sasquatch are just as likely to scream or howl over valleys to locate others of their kind, or in some instances induce fear on intruders or passerby. Yeah, or how about mimicking people's parents or spouses or even themselves or their kids? Perfectly. Calling out humans' names, calling out dogs' names, mimicking the owners of the dog perfectly. That's been noted. That's a huge pattern, actually. And you know, I think this is about 6 years ago now. I actually went up north, elk hunted where we had all those trees snapped off and the grass flattened it everywhere. My trail camera spun to face a tree, and my friend heard the tree getting blasted from the direction I was, and I didn't hear nothing. That spot. And I went right there in the middle of that spot, and, back up. I went hunting up there, came home with nothing. And I never come home with nothing. And it drove me bonkers. I drove all the way home, pissed right off, got angry. I was home for 2 days. I repacked and I drove all the way back up there by myself. Nobody was anywhere up there. Any of the usual camp spots you drive by in the old logging roads, nobody. The place is deserted. And I made camp. And every single time, I must have woke up one night probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And it was raining, sleeting. And every single time I woke up, which was like 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the morning, I remember, 2 in the morning, there was grouse. Grouse would start drumming every single time I went out of the tent to go pee. Grouse start drumming. Not right by me, but across the river. And I heard about at least 6, maybe, I think it was 8. I think I heard 8 different trees came crashing down on the other side of the river that one night. Whatever, what do you do? I mean, when you know, you know. Whatever. I'm just laying in my tent thinking, okay, whatever, man. Whatever. Go to sleep, wake up in the morning, shrug it off, ignore it, say out loud that I'm here to hunt, and I went down to that exact same spot that next day, the very first morning I went to where we had all that stuff happen, and I shot a 6-point elk. And then I went home. Sorry, just thought I'd share that memory of the sounds and the trees going down every time I woke up. This next entry is titled Interesting Mimicry. Retired Oklahoma State Forestry Service worker Harold Yates, a one-time Honabi, pronounced Honabi, resident was quoted as saying in 2005, quote, hold on a second, you guys. I don't know what it is, but something is definitely out there. Yates heard all the local stories and those from his friends who trust he won't laugh at their accounts. He was deeply puzzled by experiences he had years earlier in 2000 while building a log cabin near Little River, a main waterway that snakes through the Honobia Valley. One day Yates was cutting planks of wood with his saw. He said the piercing sound of wood colliding with a saw blade could be heard quite a distance. It wasn't long before he heard another saw respond to his. He said that was when he heard the Bigfoot apparently trying to answer him in the deafening sound that mocked his power saw. He said that was when he heard the Bigfoot apparently trying to answer him in a deafening sound that mocked his power saw. On another occasion, in the stillness of the night, Yates heard large rocks being slammed into the river below his cabin. The crashing sound continued for 40 minutes and unnerved his family. That would unnerve anybody in the dark. Daytime, too. The soft-spoken Yates, reflecting, said, quote, I don't know what could have made those sounds. The trouble is, I don't know anything that can make those noises, and I know a bear can't. There's more on mimicry. Iowan Roger Price listed a series of strange Bigfoot-related events that occurred in his life from 1992 to October 2011. Part of his report contained these descriptive behaviors regarding mimicry by what he perceived was a local Sasquatch. Quote, my wife and I were collecting firewood for the cold night ahead of us. We were deep in the woods approximately 500 yards from camp. And as we sat on a fallen log, my wife picked up a good-sized stick and started striking the log, just to break the silence. We heard a crack noise close by, assuming that a tree fell over or a branch broke, which is a common occurrence in this area. However, about 30 seconds later, we heard a tapping sound, which seems to be mimicking my wife's tapping. I passed it off as a woodpecker, but as Sherry kept tapping, so would the other. 3 taps, a pause, then 2 taps. This kept up for 10 minutes. Not thinking much of it, we decided to get back to the wood we had collected earlier. Then the tapping became almost violent, followed by an alarm-like whistling. I was armed with an 1860 .44 caliber black powder revolver, which I drew and started in the direction of the racket approximately 50 yards away. As I approached, I saw running at full speed a mass of black-brown hair. With my wife running back to camp to arm herself, I slowly followed until the land dropped off to the river. I looked across the river from the top of the bank, and I could see where something had evidently climbed out of the opposite side. I stopped my chase at this point. However, to my right on, as well as under, an eroded part of the bank, I could see a neat pile of twigs and branches, so I went to investigate. I noticed a stack of large carp, along with what looked like cleaned roots of some type. We ended up leaving that night due to unexplained noises. The creature I saw was the same creature I saw in 1992 and 1995. This one was bigger than the last sightings, or it had grown bigger. It had a very large body. His upper chest was very powerful looking. It had little or no neck to speak of, with swinging arms and a bitter smell like dog manure. The creature was 6 or 7 feet tall and possibly weighing about 400 pounds, with strides of about 4 feet from the left foot to the right foot. And Roger ends his story with, what I saw no doubt was a Bigfoot. Well, here's one more. Mimicking humans. Building stick structures. The Tommy Davis story. One of the best examples of Sasquatch mimicking humans was uncovered in an investigation by William Bill Dranginis In Virginia, Dranginis. In Virginia. I cannot remember a time when Bill wasn't around the Sasquatch community. I know I've turned to him any number of times for help in understanding hairy man behavior, and I've been powerfully influenced by his judgments and honest candor. Never heard of him, myself. Driven by his own sighting, Dranginis is an intelligent, no-nonsense, straight shooter who takes a conventional look at research in and around his home state of Virginia. Bill is the inventor of the I Gotcha camera, designed to be hidden from any detection by forest dwellers, in particular the Sasquatch. Recently, Dranginis, I'm probably butchering his name, I'm sorry, generously shared the aspects of a case where the locals were heard imitating Virginia residents, Mr. and Mrs. Tommy Davis. The Davis letter read like this. Okay, before we get to the letter, let's go step back a second. He was the inventor of the I Gotcha camera, designed to be hidden from any detection by forest dwellers, in particular the Sasquatch. Huh? Anybody know about this? I've never heard of that in my entire life. The I Gotcha camera that was designed to be hidden from any detection by forest dwellers, in particular the Sasquatch. Well, I guess there must be some success, right? If that's the statement associated with the I Gotcha camera. I guess some of us will be looking that up in a minute, right? Quote, now back to the Davis letter, Tommy Davis. A lot of stuff has happened here over the 3 years or so, and I'll try to compress it somewhat to give you an idea of what's going on, and perhaps you can help me understand all of it to a greater degree, particularly the most recent things. 2009 to 2010, small stones began appearing on the center of a trail through our property where I'd walk with my dog. 2010 to 2011, stick structures began to appear. To me, they resemble right triangles, equilateral triangles, X's, ovals, and etc., and tree breaks. At first, there were only a few structures. Now there are many dozens of new structures with a large concentration around our house and my mom's house. During this time, I've learned the following through personal experience. Number one, they are very intelligent. Yes, they are. Oh. Number two, they're very curious. Number three, they speak to one another. Number four, they are not malicious like I first thought. Number five, they seem to have a sense of humor, one that I would describe as that of a teenage punk. Number six, one of them may be much larger than the others and is extremely strong. Excuse me. Number seven, they seem to be friendly, want to have some kind of social interaction, but on their terms. They will make certain noises over and over until I turn in their direction and loudly acknowledge them. Hi, Foot, how you doing? How's the missus? Then they stop and are apparently content. That's kind of odd, right? But it sounds like it could make sense. But what a weird action. At first, we didn't like the idea of Bigfoot being around here, but have gotten used to the idea and have actually become rather fond of them. In 2012, a few weeks ago, I shine. Most recently, and the most bizarre was this. My wife heard me call her name from the woods one evening when she arrived home from work. At first, she thought I was returning from a walk and was offering a greeting. The problem is, I was in the house, and when I emerged, she was horrified to find that it was indeed not I who had called her name. I have heard of this kind of thing before, but, of course, really know nothing about these creatures, only what I've read and seen and heard for myself. They can imitate my voice and know which one of us is Kathy. When I first started corresponding with Dranginis, I referred to what was starting to happen around here as creepy. The name calling is by far the creepiest, so if you could give me some insight as to what it means and what we might expect next, I would greatly appreciate it. Tommy Davis, March 13th, 2012. It sounded to me like the local Sasquatch fascinated himself with the Davis family, and for whatever reason had studied them accurately and long enough to know their names and when they come and go. It's almost like a stalking behavior, but I would stop short of declaring the activity as habituation. There is no personal one-on-one interaction. There is no personal one-on-one interaction. Along those lines of thought, Anita Fritzenkoetter wrote of her habit of screaming out the back door at dinner when it was ready. Her family come a-running, wash up at the outside fountain, and then file in for dinner. This was routine for approximately 7 years. Then the day came when she had finished decorating the backyard area for her husband's 54th birthday festivities, and at the precise time dinner was usually ready, a healthy voice from the forest hollered out, "Dinner!" Mrs. Fritzenkoetter believed it was someone invited to the birthday party, but her guests denied responsibility to include her closest neighbors from the adjoining farm. There's another situation like the Davis and the Fritzenkoetter households where the couple bought a soccer ball from Toys R Us and had fun kicking it around the backyard during summer evenings. When they went into the house for the night, they left the ball on the lawn out back. Within a short while, the two juvenile Sasquatch copied the behavior of the homeowners. Laughter and sounds of intense competitive playing could be heard long into the night. In fact, a few times the games got very loud when the adult Bigfoot joined in. Eventually the ball went missing. Apparently the Sasquatch team absconded with the ball, or they kicked it out of the forest. Nobody knew, but it was never found. Apparently, copying and mimicking humans is a pastime some Sasquatches amuse themselves with, even when you don't suspect they're around. Evidently, some of them watch us intently. I've heard it say that a hiker can pass within feet of a Sasquatch and never be aware he is there. They are apparently that well camouflaged. Yeah. Are they ever? Are they ever? All right, I'm gonna stop there because I could probably read Bobby's book all day long, and I wasn't even planning on being here. Yeah, all right. Well, I thought about bringing Bobby's book with me, but I better not because it'll just get destroyed, guaranteed. I'm gonna be covered in snow, sludge, and dirt and grime nonstop, and that book will be shredded by the time I'm done with it. So I think I'll carry on without it on this trip. I think I might have had something new here that I forgot to share yesterday. Maybe. Let's have a quick peek, shall we? All right, fresh out of the pen, couple quick emails. It's titled Paranormal. Hey there, Steve. I have a few paranormal stories for you. When I was young, we didn't have much to entertain ourselves. Being the 6 out of 7, my older siblings loved to scare us, so they would put on spooky shows. I was around 8 or 9 when this one, I guess you'd call scene, they'd narrate that someone died and their ghost would come back and lay in this bed. While staring at the pillow, it went in as if someone just laid their head on it. Ooh. Years later, I asked my oldest sister about how she did it. She told me that she didn't and was scared too, but didn't want us to get scared. Funny, right? Creepy, right? Again, around 8 or 9, I was angry with my older sister and ran up to our room. I stood in front of the mirror and cried, I hate you, with my eyes closed. After I opened them, there behind me is a dark figure. I thought of Bloody Mary. I closed my eyes again, saying, no, no, no. I opened my eyes, and she was gone. Now I'm in my 20s at my parents' when my mother shows me a booklet. It was an anniversary booklet for a church. In it, they wrote about when the convent was being built and where they stayed while construction was going on. There's a picture of their house. The people my parents bought the house from had them there. While staying at their house, a nun passed, so now I believe it was her. I have a few more involving my father, so I hope all is well with you and yours, Marge. That's kind of creepy. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the paranormal stuff myself. I'm not into it. Not into it myself. And I have had experiences with the paranormal. I found a few screenshots in here as well of comments. I got to get them off my phone. John C. Oneshell Jr. Back in 2000, we were fishing on the Applegate River and heading back to Grants Pass, crossing the bridge. I looked out my passenger side window and saw a sabe under the bridge, and I got my friends to stop. When I ran back there, he was gone. I happened to be looking down the river to see if there's any pools to fish in when I saw him. He was about 8-foot male standing on the shore under the bridge. Of course, my buddies didn't believe me, but I know what I saw. Hangtown John. There you go. Another one, right? What's this one? Mark, this is red. Threw sticks at truck. Emailed in to me for you to hear. Hi, Steve. I'd like my name to go anonymous, but I've been listening and watching your videos for the past couple of months, and I'm also a subscriber. I love what you bring to those who have encounters or have questions about the unknown when it comes to these creatures known as Bigfoot or Sasquatch. The more I watch your videos and the emails you read from others who encountered or experienced these events, it gave me the courage to share mine, knowing I won't be ridiculed and be comfortable sharing what I had experienced. Good news, my man. Love it. I'm a truck driver for a well-known trucking company and been driving for over a couple of years and ongoing today. I've been to 48 states while driving OTR over the road. Seen lots of animals such as black bears, coyotes, elk, white-tailed deer, mountain goats, you name it. I was a rookie driver of when this incident took place, and to my knowledge, I wasn't equipped with how to pre-plan trips. Couple typos, no big deal. Many times I find myself parked on the side of ramps off an exit or the side of the highway / interstate. And I was driving through the Black Mountains in North Carolina off of I-40 heading into Tennessee. It was getting dark and I was running out on my DOT drive time. So I parked on the side of the highway in a secluded area on the side of the road which was wide enough to park for the night. Around close to midnight, I had to step out for a leak. I got off my cab to relieve myself. And for some reason, I felt uneasy, as if I'm being watched. Then I heard rustling and snapping of trees that sounded like a large animal off in the distance. As I was finished, I headed into the cab, locked the doors, and hunkered in my bunk. The sound of the rustling and the tree branch snapping from the distance was getting closer and closer to my truck. I remained quiet to listen and figure out what animal could this be. And what came across my mind was a black bear or deer, but by the way it was moving, by the sound of the rustling and snapping, it sounded like it was walking on two. There could be no possible way a person would be out in the mountain in a secluded area at that time of night with miles away from residential areas. So what could it be? I remained silent, and the sound was getting closer and closer. I knew for a fact this was a large animal, but don't know exactly what kind. Then it came to a stop, and it was dead silence. I was too creeped out to take a peek through my passenger window. I laid there on my bed thinking, whatever it was, we'll leave, and that didn't go as I had expected. A loud thump ran out, as if something was thrown at my trailer. Then another, and another followed. I was scared and concerned, thinking, what if it was someone out there playing games or trying to get me out to do harm to me? I got the courage to get up and take a peek through the window, but it was too dark to see anything. And after another loud thump, I reached out my driver's side and pulled on the air horn to scare off what or who it was, and moments afterward I can hear it rustling away faster than it had approached my truck. There I was, frozen a daze on my seat, contemplating what or could have been in the middle of the night, out in a secluded area on the mountainside. Next morning came through. I stepped out to do my pre-trip, and I noticed thick-sized tree branches laying on the ground of the side of the trailer where the sound of it had been thrown against. Could it be a person, possibly, or could it be something else? I don't know. Time after time, my friends and family would ask me what weird experiences do I come across over the road, and this is what I shared with them. Thanks for listening, and appreciate what you do. Okay, man, gotcha. Pretty sure you got a good idea of what it was, and do you know of anything else? Have you heard anything else? And do you talk to fellow truckers at truck stops or anything about what they see? Because I have a feeling our overland trucker community sees a lot, without a doubt, right? Without a doubt. Okay, one more. Hey Steve, this experience happened to me and my dad in April of 2020. I know your primary focus is on Sasquatch experiences, but I thought I'd share another strange experience. I don't know if it was aliens, Bigfoot, or something else. It's hard for me to think it was a Sasquatch, though, because I've never heard of a Bigfoot in the desert. Oh, they're there. They show up anywhere, but unfortunately. It's the middle of the hardcore lockdowns in mid-April, and my dad and I decided to escape the COVID hell we were living in, and we picked a spot in the Black Rock Desert, a couple hours away in the Calico Hills, just a few miles west of the Calico Mountains wilderness. We took the highway going through Gerlach, Nevada, or Gerlach, Nevada, the gateway to the Black Rock Desert. An hour or two passes and the road turns to dirt. Now we're traveling on an old BLM road, and after 45 minutes down this road, we find a very good spot with trees and a creek. A very rare find out in this desert. If you go east a ways to the Calico Wilderness, there's no water, trees, or wildlife other than crickets and lizards for miles. It's eerie how quiet that area can get at night. This area is different, though, and we can hear birds, frogs, and bugs constantly. There's no lack of noise, which plays into the story later. We proceed to unpack the truck, set up our tent and chairs, and start shooting our new rifle and revolver some. Soon it gets to be evening, and we're sitting by the fire enjoying our hot dogs and root beer, bonding as father and son. The sun begins to sink below the hill, and the sky turns to dark. We decide to go to the tent for the night, so we clean up our food and head off to bed. This is when things start to get sketchy. As soon as we turn our backs, we hear an intense rustling in the bushes behind us. I turn around and call out, and pop off a few shots in the air to try and scare whatever it is away, because there are coyotes and mountain lions in this area. Whatever it was stopped rustling as soon as I fired off the last shot, so we dismissed it and got in our sleeping bags. And as we're lying in our bedrolls, I start to hear a noise that put me on edge. Even though I'm only in my mid-teenage years and have only really developed a passion for the wilderness in the last year, I'm an Eagle Scout and had previously dozens upon dozens of days out camping and backpacking. I've spent this time in areas heavily saturated with coyotes, mountain lions, and various other creatures, but I'd never heard this noise before. It came from behind our tent, maybe 10 yards away from us. I've heard many coyotes. They even live outside my house, and I hear them every night, but this was not a coyote. It had the same kind of pitch and tone as a coyote, but it made the same call with no vary in pitch or tone for over an hour. It creeped me the hell out, and I began to count the times between each call. 5 seconds exactly every time. We began to hear the same intense rustling to the left of our tent in the bushes. Then it stopped after a couple of seconds. My dad and I were laying awake for 3 hours with a deep, sinking feeling in our stomachs while all this was happening. Then we heard a very loud noise outside our tent that I can only describe as a vehicle, but without a motor. That was my first thought as soon as I heard it. But now that I think back on it, we were so far out in the middle of Shitsville nowhere and hadn't seen anyone all day, and the fact that we did not see any headlights come over our tent are what makes me think it wasn't a truck or a car. I just laid there awake, nervously trying to fall asleep, but I gave up after not being able to for some time. As exhaustion was about to come over me and put me to sleep, my dad raspily whispered my name. I looked over at him, and I seen him sitting up on his bedroll, Glock in hand. He motions towards the front of the tent, and then I seen it. A glaring, constant bright light upwards, but not directly above the tent. I very clearly remember the silence. There was absolutely no noise. All the frogs and crickets and other wildlife all of a sudden were silenced, and all I felt was pure terror. It glared into our tent like a flashlight. That's what we thought it was at first. My dad and I crawled out of the tent with the handgun and rifle, ready to confront whatever was out there. And it was the most terrifying moment of my life. Being on our hands and knees, crawling out of the tent, we could easily be kicked in the face or shot. The next thing I remember is feeling confused. There's nothing there. No light, no tracks. No people looking to mug us or strange creatures. But the fire we had thoroughly put out 3 hours ago was alive and going again as if it was brand new. The light was definitely not the fire, though. You'd expect the fire to make a flickering, glowing light at the bottom of the tent. It wasn't the moon either. Anyone that has spent any time in the woods will know the moon on your tent isn't a big deal like this was. The light was white, constant, and upwards in front of our tent. It only stopped once we were getting out of the tent. We got in the truck and drove miles to where the dirt road became pavement again, and where we stopped there for the night. When we got back in the morning, our camp was just how we left it. None of our stuff had been touched, and there was no sign of anything being there at all. We got back in the tent and tried to make up for lost sleep and spent the rest of the day there and left that evening. What haunts us is that we'll never know what it was. Even though I still love camping and hiking out in the wilderness, I don't sleep at night anymore while I'm out there. Anyways, feel free to share this story on YouTube. I'd love to see a video on it and see what you think and others think. Sincerely, one of your viewers from Nevada. There you go. Shared, my man. Fitting that I'm reading all these tent and camping stories just before I'm about to go camping tonight in the woods, right? Whatever. But anyway, if any of you out there have had a similar experience, it doesn't have to be in the same zone. It doesn't have to be in Nevada. Anywhere. Throw it down in the comment section below so you can read it up. Or email me at sharemystory@howtohunt.com if you want. We'll get it shared. Do I know what that was? Nope. Do I believe that there are bright lights with intelligence ripping around out there in the real world? Absolutely. How many thousands and thousands of eyewitnesses have reported that same thing, right? But the dread. Why the bright light? Why the dread? Why the dread? Why mess with simple human beings in a tent that are harmless to you? Why bother? You know, why bother? But anyway, I think Sarah should be home by now, and I should probably get my butt in gear and get traveling. But I had a real quick thought about, I was talking to somebody the other day about whether or not these people are here full time where we are or not. And I was like, from all of the eyewitness accounts, from all of the hundreds of thousands of you out there, let's just say these very intelligent human-like beings were here with us 24/7, their whole life, right? Let's just say they were, which I don't believe is fact myself. But I would almost think that there is probably a high percentage of suicides amongst those people. Why do I say that? Because of the quality of life. If only going on if they're here full time, think about it. The kids can't go tubing down a river in the middle of July or August, openly, carefree, having nothing but fun and exploring and having a great time to kill the heat during the day. They can't do that. They can't go to the beach. They can't go surfing during the day, learn how to surf. They can't go fishing during daylight hours alongside any of us. What else? Obviously the possibilities are endless of what fun and enjoyment they could have during daylight hours anywhere, carefree. They can't. What a shit-eating sentence. and you have to spend your whole life, your whole entire existence is dedicated to hiding. That's torture. That would be torture, don't you think? That'd be absolute torture. No wonder so many people have reported having the feeling of sadness, loneliness, tired, sent to them via telepathy. So many people have described the looks on their faces as tired, old, tired, lots of tired, lonely, had enough in a way, weathered, old, you know? Not rocking it out, happier than shit. So I'm just saying, if these people were here full-time amongst us full-time, it can't be that happy of an existence. Don't you think? Think about it. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm out there all the time. I'm not trying to hide from every single... I'm not running around terrified of being seen and having to remain concealed 24/7. That's a sentence, right? This planet's too beautiful. The real world's too beautiful and it's too much fun. Anyway, I was just having that thought the other day. I wonder if there is suicide amongst these people. That was my original thought and question. I wonder if suicide is a thing with them as it is with us, you know? Because if it is, it wouldn't surprise me from all I know so far, right? But anyway, enough rambling. Here I go. I'm out of here. Sarah's got family coming here to stay while I'm gone. She's got the Ruby dog. Everything's going to be cool here and safe and secure. And all I need is some well wishes for safe travels for my next 2-day highway jaunt after tomorrow morning. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And I'm going to actually be video documenting this entire trip. My goals that I've chose for myself. And I'm going to video document it. Everything I do, just in case I pull it off. Because if I pull it off, I don't think I know if anybody's pulled this off. But we'll see what happens. Wish me luck. Here I go. Email me at sharemystory@howtohunt.com. And if you want any of these hats or beanies or t-shirts, there's a link below in the description for Sarah's store. What else? That's about it. Here I go. And I will be doing this because it gets dark so early. I got nothing else to do, right? Until first light the next day. The days are short and the nights are long, so I will be doing this while I'm away. Later.